podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.
PNR.
Now entering the PNRNetworks arena, coming down the aisle from Revere, Massachusetts, weighing in at absolutely none of your business. It's the mistress of mayhem, the queen of quips. It's time for Ring Around the Rosie with your hostess, Kim Brown.
Hey everybody, welcome to another week here on Ring Around the Rosie. I'm your host, Kim Brown, aka Platinum Rose Lady, coming to you on Wednesday, the 13th of February, 2019. I hope everybody's week has been going pretty good, been going alright here, a couple of things, stared down the barrel of a winter storm and all that, early in the week, but it's okay now, everything's cool. I'm going to be kind of bouncing all over the road today with this show, but I want to start off with, by saying goodbye to someone, and it's never an easy thing to say goodbye. It always kind of sucks, especially for someone that's been involved in professional wrestling, because we feel like, this is someone that's been part of, for some people, their lives for a very long time. Some people only know them from, old magazines or hearing other people talk about them and stuff like that. But this was someone who was important to a lot of people at one point, and important, obviously, to their close family and friends and people like that. So it always sucks to say goodbye, but it's always an amazing thing when you can look back on someone's career that has had a long career and be like, wow, they were really somebody special. Pedro Morales passed away on February 12th of this year. He was 76 years old. And he was one of those people that, I have to be honest, by the time I got into wrestling, which was in the mid-80s, I heard the name a lot, Pedro Morales, but I didn't really know very much about him. He had pretty much retired by the time I started watching wrestling. He would have sporadic appearances, now and then, but he was definitely one of those people that the second you said his name, people would be like, oh, I know who that is, or I know, I've heard of him. He was involved with quite a number of different organizations, including, he wrestled in Florida, he wrestled in California, he wrestled for the World Wrestling Federation back when it was the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, and also the World Wrestling Federation, the World Wrestling Council. He was a 2-time Intercontinental Champion. He was a tag team champion in the WWF with his partner being Bob Backlund. He was one of the holders of the Worldwide Wrestling Federation Championship and the United States Championship. He was the first person in the WWF to be a Triple Crown winner, World Champion, Intercontinental Champion, and Tag Team Champion. He was inducted into the WWF Hall of Fame in 1995. And I remember, like I said, hearing about him more than actually seeing any of his matches. I remember hearing about a specific match that he had in Shea Stadium with the living legend Bruno Sammartino that was a very rare, face versus face match, and that, people talked about it as being one of the best matches they'd ever seen, that, they really shook Shea Stadium to its foundations. So it's obviously a sad thing when you say goodbye to someone after they've lived such a long life and, made so many people happy. This might be a little earthy, crunchy, hippie granola Woodstock for people, but this is how I feel about life. I feel like we are put here on this planet. Our purpose is to bring light and joy to other people's lives. That's the measure of the success of your life. It's not how much money you made. It's not how many buildings or bridges or whatever have your name on them. It's the amount of joy and the amount of light that you bring to people. And Pedro Morales was an amazing wrestler. He was obviously someone that was very attached to his roots, being originally from Puerto Rico, and being a proud member of the Puerto Rican community, being a proud Puerto Rican athlete that people could look to and say, this guy is, that he's really amazing and shows how incredible we can be. And I think that that's really the biggest thing that you can say about somebody's life, is that they made other people happy, and he definitely did that for people. Besides entertaining people as a wrestler, he was a husband, he was a father, and I just feel like for someone like that, I think when they leave this plane of existence and go on to whatever is beyond this plane of existence, when people talk about you, they smile when they talk about you, then you're never really gone. So I feel like in that sense, somebody like Mr. Morales is going to live for a very, very long time, even though his time on this planet is gone. His memory of his matches, of his personality. He wasn't one of these, yell and scream guys. He was, like a little more low key than that and stuff like that. He didn't need to rely on gimmicks and things. His whole gimmick was that he was just that damn good, and that's, I just want to say my deepest sympathies to his family, to his friends, to his fans, and, Godspeed to wherever his spirit has gone on to. Very cool other news to bring up, in the fact that a lot of people have heard about this new federation that's starting up, AEW, which is All Elite Wrestling. And they're going to be having a show in Las Vegas, Double or Nothing, which is going to be on May 25th. And that show is going to be in Las Vegas, and the tickets for that sold out in 4 minutes. That is crazy. And I just have so much love and so much positive thoughts for AEW. I really want this organization to take off and do really well, because, to be perfectly honest, and I realize some people might be kind of like, well, you're hearkening back to stuff that might never be again, and maybe I am. When I started watching wrestling way back in the day, we won't go far, but I already said, it was the mid 80s when I was but a doe-eyed teen. How much in my teens is none of your damn beeswax. But when I started watching wrestling, there were all these different federations. And for a while, you could see wrestling from literally all over the country. We were lucky enough that our cable system, you had the WWF, you had the NWA, you had World Clash, you had AWA, you had wrestling from Texas. In other feds, you had wrestling from Hawaii for a little while. And it was just so cool to have all these different federations out there. Now, because of what's, the way things go and the way things have happened, and the fact that Vince McMahon has kind of become wrestling's equivalent of the Borg, I know, I love Star Trek and wrestling. I'm a complete nerd. I know. But, I feel like anything that comes up that can be new or different, I'm all for that, man. Variety truly is the spice of life, and everybody should be able to look at choice is a beautiful thing. Choice is always a beautiful thing. Being able to pick between A or B, or A, B, and C, or A, B all the way down to Z, that's a great thing. And the idea that this now new company has started up, and that people are so like, we are throwing money at you because we want something new and different and special, and we want choice. I think that's a good sign. I feel like that's a really positive sign. It's really positive energy. And I give nothing but love and respect to AEW, and I hope that they blossom and flourish, and they've got, amazing people involved like Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho, and, Cody, it's just Cody now, isn't it? I get confused. I'm like, is he Cody Runnels? Is he Cody Rhodes? Is he just Cody? Is he that dude from Arrow? I'm confused. I'm sorry. Cody, if you want to write to me, tell me what to call you. PlatinumRoselle@yahoo.com. Be my guest. I loved the indie shows that we used to be able to go to when I was younger and had a car and there were more indie feds around here. I always feel like that variety and that choice is so important. So that's why I am so on board with AEW, and I really, really want them to do well and amazing. Although I do have to kind of wonder the press conference stuff that went on earlier, that was, was all over the internet now with Kenny Omega, up there talking, and then, Chris Jericho came and interrupted him. And Chris, what the hell were you wearing? Wow. I'm not saying that you didn't fill out those pants nicely, Chris, 'cause you did, but I was like, wow, that's a look. Okay, far be it from me to tell the Ayatollah of rock and roll how to dress. I'm not going to do that, but I was like, wow, man, those pants really are can almost see what faith you are there, Chris. Good luck with Kenny. I think it's going to be an amazing, obviously these guys know how to tear it down, so it's going to be really something to watch and really special and amazing. Now, in all this positiveness, unfortunately, I now have to do something that I really don't want to do, but I'm going to do it anyway. So just give me a moment to get to do what I need to do. I am a firm believer in the idea that what you give out to the universe, you get back. I really do believe that. So, I also believe that whatever you're going to say on the internet, if you wouldn't say it to somebody's face, don't say it on the internet. Now, I realize that I really shouldn't have to say that to all y'all out there, because for the most part, I would like to assume that most of the people listening to this show are grown-ups, and know how to behave both in front of people and, over the interwebs. And I'd like to think that, but then stuff happens on the internet that just proves me wrong, and I just get so completely like, all right, fine, somebody's going to have to act like mom here, and if it's gonna, shit's gone horribly wrong when I have to be the voice of reason. I mean, if I'm the one that's going, whoa, hey, back up, this is wrong, this is crazy, let's take a breath back and, that kind of deal. If I'm the one doing that, shit's gone horribly wrong. I bring this up because of the whole Becky Lynch situation. I don't know how else to word it. But, so to kind of pull it all back and Becky Lynch has apparently, well, at least the WWE storyline is that she turned heel. You couldn't know it by the fans, and she's been going on this rampage and, the whole, I'm the man thing and all that, which I still don't get, but I still kind of think being a woman and calling yourself a man is taking an enormous step down, but nobody asked me. And the whole thing that happened at the Royal Rumble where Lana got hurt and Becky wound up taking her place and won the Rumble, and she was going to go on to WrestleMania to face Ronda Rousey, yada yada flambe. Now, in between all of that, we had all of the insanity that went on where she belted the living fuck out of Stephanie McMahon, which, to be perfectly honest, I had zero problem with at all, because Stephanie just has one of those faces that you just want to slap. I mean, there's a word for it in German, and I'm not going to say it out. I'm not going to say it here until I learn how to completely. I think I have it. I'm almost there, but there's a German word that's what I love about Germany. They have these incredible words in their language that just don't make it into English. There's a word in German that I'm going to give it a shot. Backpfeifengeist. I think that might have been close. It's a word that basically means someone whose face always looks like it should be slapped. And I'm like, if that doesn't describe Stephanie McMahon, I don't know what does. So anyway, so she slapped, she punched Stephanie, she slapped Triple H, which I have to admit, that made me laugh like a supervillain. If anybody hitting Stephanie made me laugh, the idea of Becky slapping Triple H in the face just completely, oh my gosh, that was, I could have watched that on a loop for an hour. But, the whole thing happened where Becky was supposed to, apologize, or she was going to have her spot taken away, and blah, 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 and all this other shit like that. And it came down to this week on Raw where, Becky apologized, but Vince McMahon came out and said that Becky wasn't, she wasn't sincere in her apology. And then he suspended her for 60 days. So her suspension would lift 5 days after WrestleMania. And he was putting Charlotte in to take Becky's place. And, okay, so, basically, if you look at this from a couple of different angles, which I want to do because I have that kind of time, it's kind of, I'm looking kind of back and thinking to earlier on this year, which is kind of, considering the fact that we're only in almost not, the middle of February, and I'm already looking back at the beginning of the year and going, okay, that took about as long as I thought it was going to. When you had the whole thing with when the McMahons out there being all like, oh, well, we're going to let the fans take over and you get to decide what happens and blah, blah. And here's Vince being like, nope, fuck that. We're going to shove Charlotte down your throats whether you want her or not. Okay, that took about as long as I thought it was going to take. So a McMahon promise lasts about as long as a Kardashian marriage. Good to know. Anyway, moving forward. And for those of you who are going, didn't we see this before, way back in the day, and back then the part of Becky Lynch was being played by some bald dude that was used to flipping people off and drinking beers all the time? Yes, we are. We're basically seeing a retread of the Austin McMahon storyline, just a gender-flipped version. Now, am I saying that as in I'm having a problem with that? To be honest, no. I'm not, for a couple of different reasons. The biggest reason is that I would much rather look at Becky Lynch than I would look at Steve Austin. There, I said it. I'm not sorry. Not that Steve isn't a handsome man, but, hey, look at him, look at Becky Lynch for, an hour or something. Let me think, apples and oranges kind of a deal. I'm comfortable enough in my sexuality that I can say I find another woman attractive and Becky Lynch is a good-looking girl. There. I said it. Once again, not sorry. Now, where I'm coming from with the whole I have to be people's mom is the fact that the internet decided to erupt in an enormous amount of assholery about this kind of, about the way this storyline has gone. Now, I understand getting passionate. I understand getting emotional about things. I understand all of that. That's not the problem. The problem comes from when people don't know when to back the fuck up. And people don't look at a situation and go, okay, I need to take a breath from this. Now that, granted, is easier to do when you're doing something in a verbal situation. If you say something stupid, and we've all said stupid things, I won't even bother to try and count the number of dumb things I've said in my life, because that's a list that's too long. But I'd like to think if I said something dumb, that I would be able to go, okay, I said the wrong thing. My temper got the best of me. I spoke out of turn. I apologize. And people who know me know when I apologize, it comes from my heart and I mean it. What bothers me is when you see people write something and you know somebody wrote something and you're assuming they read it after they wrote it and they posted it anyway. Now this goes for anything. Anybody who posts something racist, sexist, transphobic, anything like that, you know, take a look back at something before you post it. I've done that. I've posted stuff and then gone, okay, I can't write that. You know, I can't post that. That's a terrible thing. I'm angry at the moment and I can't post that. So I take a step back. Even if it's a step that's 5 seconds long and stops you from posting something incredibly crass, cruel, or just flat out mean, do it. Because you might wind up saving yourself from being pilloried by people because they're going to read something you wrote and go, you're a fucking asshole. Now, the reason I bring that up is because, like I mentioned, some people have gone way out of control with the remarks they've been making in regards to Charlotte. Now, all of a sudden, you know, everybody's dumping on Charlotte because Charlotte's out there being an arrogant kind of semi-heel. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I don't really know Charlotte as a person. I've seen little bits and bobs about her personal life and stuff like that. But I don't really know very much about Charlotte, the person behind the person that's, you know, comes down to the ring every week. Other than the fact that A, she's got some kick-ass robes. I do like her robes. And B, she really needs to lighten up on the lipstick. The shade is way too Wicked Queen for her right now. But that's just my opinion for what it's worth. And, you know, this is wrestling and not, you know, fashion police. So anyway. But when you read things where people are not going after Charlotte, the personality, they're going after Charlotte, the person. Someone posted this to Instagram, and I'm not going to give the person's name because I don't want to give them any more publicity. They said on an Instagram post they put up where they were pissed off about the whole thing with Charlotte and Becky and all that. Quote, I guess God made a mistake. They should have taken Charlotte instead of Reed Flair. End quote. Okay, now, I realize that some people, when I read that, are going to be like, oh, well, that's just a fan blowing off steam. No. That's a human being cruel to another human being. Being cruel to another human being who lost her brother. Reed Flair is not part of a story. Reed Flair was a living, breathing human being who died way too young. Granted, it was because of an addiction to drugs, but still. But that's still tragic. A person who loses their life to drugs is just as sad as anybody who loses their life in any other way. It doesn't diminish the fact that they're a person, even if they, you know, died from a drug overdose. They're still dead. They're still gone. And their family still misses them. And for somebody to bring that up in a post, and I know another thing is some people will be like, oh, well, you're taking this too personally. Oh, Charlotte's never going to read that. Blah, 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 blah. You know what? Charlotte's probably not going to read it. I hope Charlotte doesn't read it because that's an awful thing to write about somebody. It was an awful thing when Paige brought up Reed in a promo a while back. And they got taken to task for it on WWE, and they should have. They deserved to. This isn't like that. This wasn't somebody writing that as part of a program to get Paige over as a heel. This is somebody who wrote that to deliberately hurt another human being's feelings. And that's not right. Seriously, people, I am not fucking around about this. If you wouldn't walk up to somebody and say something like that to their face, don't say it on the internet. It's just that easy. It's just that simple. Act like a person. You know, it makes me crazy. It's stuff like that that makes people think that wrestling fans are all mean-spirited jerks. I don't understand that kind of... If you want to be angry about a storyline, and you want to, express anger about it, express anger about the storyline, right? Hey, WWE, this storyline stinks, or whatever. You don't say you wish somebody else had died instead of the person's brother, who is dead, for real. What the actual fuck? I mean, that's all I'm going to say. I mean, the internet is an amazing place, and everybody has a right to freedom of speech. I mean, and I know some people out there are, screaming freedom of speech at their computers right now as they're listening to me talk. And I would never take away anybody's right to freedom of speech. But freedom of speech works both ways. If you say something that dumb, I have the freedom of speech to go, wow, man, that is not friggin' cool. Why did you say that? You now sound like a dick. Just saying. So, it's a little shorter show this week, but I just wanted to get that out there because that just stuck in my craw and just really bothered me. If you would like to comment, make any kind of remarks about any comments that I've made, if you think that I'm talking out of my hat here or whatever, platinumroselle@yahoo.com. Just please, say what you want to say. I really want your opinions on things, and I'd really like to know what you think. If you'd like to listen to any of the other shows that we have on the interwebs, you can do that as well. I also hope you will like, share, and subscribe to all of our podcasts. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter, you can do that over at platinumroselle@twitter.com. And like I mentioned, we have other shows, including, I have a show on Patreon right now called Kaiju Corner. And I hope if you are of a monstrous frame of mind, as in you like monster movies, you will go check out my show, sign up for it, and give it a listen. I have another show that's a solo show of mine called Platinum Rose's Garden, which is my supernatural podcast, where I look back on the previous week's episode of Supernatural. And there are other shows that are part of our family, including Subject Cinema, which is a show that my husband and I do about movies. My husband, TC, who is a brilliant person and is the person that puts all our computer stuff together. He has there's another show we do, there's another show we do as well called Front Row 5 and 10, which is a list show. He has a couple of solo shows as well, including Catastrophe Vortex, which is his disaster movie podcast, and 2 mini shows, which are 3 Minute Weekend and Tuesday Digidex, which are shows that are looking back at, they're not looking back at, they're looking forward to movies that are coming out this week, in the theater, on demand, at Redbox, all kinds of places like that, so you'll know where to spend your money. There's Cavebabble with Eric and Valerie Lyon, another member of our family. Also, Aunt B's Nerd Grotto over on YouTube with Anthony Lamberti. And our dramatic shows, Manhattan Hammerdown As It Happened, and also our dramatic retelling of The War of the Worlds, which everybody is involved in those, and I hope you will go take a listen to them as well. And that is going to wrap it up. We've got the Elimination Chamber coming. We've got all kinds of other things coming, this coming, and WrestleMania's down the road here. You're looking at wrestling and stuff. Tomorrow is Valentine's Day. I hope everybody has a chance to celebrate with someone they love. And this is Kim Brown, a.k.a. Platinum Rose Lady, signing off for another week here on Ring Around the Rosie, and I'll catch you guys in a couple of weeks.
You have been listening to Ring Around the Rosie with Kim Brown, a production of PNR Networks. Keep in touch with all things about the show at http://ringaroundtherosie.net. Ring Around the Rosie intro performed by Eric Lyon. Ring Around the Rosie theme by Digital Juice. Join Kim for a new Ring Around the Rosie every Wednesday. Ring Around the Rosie is copyright 2018 PNR Networks, Boston, Massachusetts, USA.
Podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.